Okay, so now that I got my rant over about the beginning part of the CNA, like, you know, signing up for the class and then being told, hey, you're not in the class, you gotta wait a little bit. Once I finally got in the class, we ended up with 2 teachers. They were both lecture and clinical teachers. So they went, you know, they were always there at class and they were always there at clinicals, which was fine. There was, what did I say, there was about 16, 15 kids. So that was pretty good, you know. So if you needed something, there was a teacher there that could help you out. So the first thing that happened in class is we had to get yellow folders. So this is what mine looked like. Literally could not find a yellow folder. She specifically wanted yellow and wanted it to be like a plastic material, because we did carry this everywhere we went, everywhere, even to clinicals. So she wanted it to be plastic, so, you know, if anything got on it, you could wipe it off. But yellow is just what the CNA at our school had to do. Could not find any. Literally go to Staples, like, far away from here, to find one. So that happened, and the first thing that they gave us, ooh, I don't have mine anymore because I took it, but it's a check-off sheet, which I don't have mine anymore because I had to hand it in. But it just said, you know, your school's name, and then it had all the skills that you needed to be able to do at the end of the course. And so it had 3 sections for each skill, and it had that you talked about it in class, you did it in the lab, and then you did it at a clinical, and you'd sign off and date it when you did it. And the teachers would check up on this periodically. Every 2 days they would check, especially if we went over like big stuff. They would check like right at the end of class. So literally you had your book out and you had this check-off sheet out. So, and another big thing is we got, and I put my name on mine because when you were in lab and there were just like random ones hanging around, you need to know who's whose. This is the Texas Nursing Aid. This is well loved. The guide. So this tells you exactly like when you go to take your state test. Where is it? Skill evaluation. Starts right here. Like exactly what they want to see, and how you should be doing it. So this goes over all the skills that they could possibly go over. So this is like basically what you study from. Like even at clinicals, I had this in my scrubs pocket like all the time. Just because if I was like, okay, I need to go in here and change this lady, or I need to, you know, it's after dinner time and I need to provide mouth care to this lady who I know who can't brush her teeth. So like I'll just look at it real quick and be like, yep, okay, good. You know, if I wasn't 100% sure. But especially in the lab, you had this out and literally you partner up with somebody and you would sit there, and after like, I want to say like the second week, they didn't want you to use your book anymore. So somebody would have their book open and you would go through all the steps, and if you missed one, they would be like, nope, and they couldn't give you hints because that's how it's going to be on the test. And you only had 5 weeks. It was a 5-week course, so it was pretty quick. Or actually it was 8 weeks. Yeah, 8 weeks. So from the get-go, you were going, which was good. I absolutely loved it. I love doing stuff like that. Patrick let me practice on him at home when I was able to breathe for 5 minutes. I felt like those 8 weeks I couldn't. But so that was in here. Another thing is they gave us is like a procedure guideline. And it just says like the beginning steps, like make sure you knock on their door, announce who you are, make sure that they agree to let you in the room, and closing steps, like, you know, make sure everything's clean in the room, you wash your hands, you know, you ask if they need anything else, sort of thing. And just like observe and report any problems, blah blah blah, to the nurse. And then another one is they gave us all the acronyms that you need to know just for, you know, reading on reports, because while we were at the clinicals, for some of the people that were there that were like new, that had just gotten transferred to the nursing home that we were at, you know, I wanted to know why they were there, because some of them, you know, you talk to them and they seem so clear in their head, and then you find out they had Alzheimer's, they didn't know their daughter's name, you know, they attacked one of their family members, stuff like that, and that's all in their case files. But a lot of them use, this is like sticking together, but a lot of them use acronyms. So just to know your acronyms, which, trust me, you need to know them. So the books that we used were Lipton Cots, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, and Stark ate part of mine. This was when we first got him, and it was bad. But this is Paula J. Carter's book, and it's Nursing Assistants, a humanistic approach to caregiving. And there was an iPhone app, but anytime I tried to use it, it crashed. So, and I had labeled, like, literally every chapter we went over, the end part of the chapter, because it has, here, let me just flip to chapter 1. It has, like, little quizzes at the end, and they pulled most of the questions from these, and then we had a workbook. So you did a workbook for every chapter. I did every chapter, and they took all of my chapters. So I can show you chapters that we didn't do that had to be pulled in. Let's see, here's 42, because we, the end of the book, we sectioned off and did like little projects at the end, so we taught the class instead of them teaching us, so we didn't have to do that. But we had to hand in our other ones. So, and I kept up on that because it was just an easier way to learn and everything. So those were basically what we had to do, and every night there was like at least three to four chapters assigned. They were pretty quick and easy to go through. Let me grab it again. She would go through the chapter the next day, and I would highlight things that I thought were important the night before while reading. I just kind of more skimmed read the night before she would go over things. Let me find like the page. But like, let's do chapter 10, safety. Patient safety. But then like in class, like I would highlight like, you know, the definitions. But then like in class, like this is Oprah, which like is like law. She'd be like, you need to know this. You need to know these paragraphs. So that's where all the other highlighting came in, especially like this. Like I just kind of highlighted certain things and like little tables that she wanted us to. So that's what happened. Great. So when we got to the clinical place, there was a front wing and a back wing. So there were 2 nursing stations, and in between there was a cafeteria. And off of each were 4 wings, so 2 on each side. And in the back there was like a 5th one that was like out to like where they bring in the car to pick people up. So the first time we went there, we all kind of got split up and we got sectioned 2 to CNA, which was fine. I was on the front most of the time I was there, so I was on the back maybe like at least twice, and the back had some problems where we were, but I was on the front the first night, and the first time we were there, we got there at 6. We were supposed to be there till 10, and around 7 o'clock-ish, one of the girls from the back came up and said, hey, we're having a meeting in the conference room. So every time we had shown up to clinicals, we were told that we had to meet in the conference room before she sent us out on the floor, just to talk about what the goals were for that night, and that we meet there before we leave to kind of, you know, get our thoughts and experiences from everybody, and go ahead and talk about what we learned or anything else, or, you know, if we needed to give some criticism to somebody that we couldn't do, while we were out there, we could. So we all got in the conference room, and we hadn't really done much other than, you know, kind of learning where everything was, and, you know, the people telling us, like, you know, how much we had done already, because we'd only been in class for like a week and a half. So got in the conference room, and one of the other girls in my class was crying, and, you know, immediately, you know, we're like, oh my god, what's wrong? Like, you know, did somebody die? Did she get hurt? And our teacher, you know, kind of, she had told us before in the first day of class, you know, when we get to clinicals, we're going to see things wrong. You know, it's not going to be the right way that they're teaching us. So, you know, to stick to how they're teaching us. So, we knew that. And I guess from what was talked about in the conference room, because I wasn't there, I did not witness what happened. The girl in my class was following the CNA, and they had to change somebody. She had soiled herself and soiled the sheets in her clothes. So they used the lift because she was too heavy for the both of them to pick her up. And I guess while the CNA was using the lift, because we had not been there long enough to use the lift yet, the CNA had picked her up, and while the machine was picking her up, the CNA decided to start unchanging her while she was on the lift. And I guess the patient started to cry and get kind of, you know, start closing in on herself, and the girl in my class was just like, hey, can I sit out for this one and just watch? I just feel uncomfortable right now. And I guess the CNA just like turned with a lady, you know, naked in the lift, and was just like, hey, you need to get with it, this is how it's gonna be, and just like got onto her, and she was just like, no, this is not how we're taught, like, you know, look at her, you know, she's crying, she's upset, you know, she's closing in on herself, she doesn't want you to touch her, she keeps saying it. So she got really, really upset, and the CNA went to the director of nursing that was there that night, and, you know, said, hey, I don't want them following me anymore, which was, you know, not really a problem for us, but it was more of a problem that she did something wrong like that, and then to, you know, completely turn around and completely forget about the patient for like 5 minutes while like grinding on her, was more of a problem in the director of nursing, the DON viewpoint. So we all had to give, like, anybody who was back there that heard what was going on, because there was another girl from my class in the room when this happened, they had to give like statements and stuff, just so the director of nursing could figure out what to do about the situation. So we weren't sure if we were going back. That's the only place we could go to, and as I said in my last video, it was about 45 minutes away, so that was just like kind of down, because the next farthest one was like an hour, and we all didn't want to do that, and neither did the teachers, so we gotta sit and wait for a day to figure out what was going on. And the DON called back later that night and said, hey, you know, she was in the wrong, I'm gonna deal with her, you know, you guys come back on Thursday. So that was kind of scary in the beginning, just to know that, you know, some people, like, I figured it out while I was working there, it becomes a job. It doesn't become caring for somebody. And when that happens, the DON basically told us when we went back on Thursday, you know, I gave her time off. She's like, paid time off, I gave it to her. You know, you sometimes need a vacation, and some people don't want to say it. You know, that you need to check yourself and figure out, you know, that this is not a job, you know, it's caring for somebody, you need to have feelings, and, you know, remember that. So that's what happened to her, and when we ended up, before we left, she came back and apologized to the class, basically. You know, she was like, there was stuff going on, you know, in her life, and with the, like, the week and a half that she had off, you know, she reevaluated everything and came back, and the DON said, you know, it happens, you know, you need to understand that. And that is basically, there are like 2 chapters in the book talking about that, just personal self stuff that, you know, leave it at the door. You know, some stuff you can bring in with you, but basically you're caring for somebody else. You know, your problems are little compared to theirs, and you just always need to remember to care for them before yourself, but also to remember that, you know, you're there for them basically. So that ended up good, but then so I was never on the back, and that happened a lot in the back apparently. A lot of the CNAs didn't want us, when the call lights would go off for people's rooms when they needed help, they didn't want us going in there without a CNA that was working there. But it's like anytime a call light would go off, there'd be like 5 and there'd be nobody. So we would just start answering them, just because they were going off. Like, we would wait like at least 2 to 3 minutes, you know, and try to find somebody. We could never find anybody. So I took the heat for most of that for everybody, and my teacher was just like the DON said nothing, so it was fine. But that happened a lot in the back. As they were in the front, you know, they would sit down and they would go through all their papers that they had to fill out, and, you know, fill it out, and they'd be like, yep, go ahead, yep, if you need help, let me know, yep, she'll need this. So they were more helpful, because like the first few weeks we were there, you know, they would always be in the room with us, you know, but they would be standing back letting us do it. And if, you know, something like we didn't know what to do, or we were like hesitating, you know, they would give us criticism or say like, hey, go ahead, which was nice. I absolutely loved the people in the front. The patients were kind no matter where you were. We had a lot of patients that, like, literally our last day there, like the whole last day there was just like hugging and loving on people. I had one patient who literally cried about me leaving, which was really hard for me because I was tearing up as we like drove home. It was bad, but it gets that way, and that's what I'm kind of excited for, because like they become your family, because they're there in a nursing home. You know, they're not going home, some of them. So it's sad, but at the same time, you know, hey, home away from home. Okay, and we had another student in our class that was a problem. I don't know, we'll call him Bob. So Bob was the only guy in the class after the other guy dropped in the beginning, and we're all cool with it. We were like, hey, you know, Bob, you're the only guy in the class, you know, you're gonna get all the girls. But all of us, like, you know, had significant others, so didn't really matter. And I wouldn't say Bob, you know how like you look at people and you know that like they just don't care, like, at all. Immediately that's what he came off to me as. So I was like, oh great, you know, we're gonna have one of those people in the class that like don't do anything. You know, if it's a group project, they sit back and do nothing. Well, in the beginning he kind of proved me wrong. You know, he was, you know, wanting to do things in the lab and stuff like that, and he was good in class. But then all of a sudden, like, something like just switched off, and he came into class one day, and most of us kind of showed up like 15 minutes early to go over, you know, the chapters and kind of review with each other. And he had showed up one day, because usually it was just like the 4 of us that showed up, and then everybody would just kind of trickle in and like join in. And he showed up one day, like, as soon as I got there, and my friend was there too. We were just outside because the room was locked, and he was just like, you know, I'm only taking this because my dad said that if I didn't, I would have to get a job. And then that was it. And we were both just sitting there, and he just went on his cell phone, and we just kind of put it out of our mind and went back to what we were doing. Well, come to find out, after a while, when we had to do more like skills, like hands-on skills, he had some sort of form of Tourette's, which is fine. I mean, there's tons of people who have disabilities and who work. I'm not saying that that's a problem, but he kept saying he wanted to be a doctor and all this other stuff. And we were like, you know, dream big, go get it. But when we started doing like clinicals and doing like real lab stuff, like, pericare and, cleaning catheters and stuff like that, where you really need to be focused, he would be walking around to every group, because you're always paired off by the teacher, and, jumping on people's beds, taking the dummies off the bed, switching stuff, and, not just being productive. So that kind of became a little bit of a problem, to the point where we all had to go talk to both of the teachers one night after class. And it was weird, because everybody was like, oh my god, we're all in trouble, like, what did we do? But I was the first one to go, and they had paired me with him that night, and they had like immediately asked me, like, did you get anything done on your skill list tonight? And I was like, no, I didn't, and I apologized, and I thought it was about that, and they were like, no, we just wanted to know why. And I was like, that Bob kept walking off and going to other groups and like messing around and talking to them and not letting them get stuff done. So as soon as they said that, I was like, oh, okay, so I'm not in trouble. And they were like, oh no, why would you, like, no. We just want to know, who do you work better with? And I was like, well, you guys already know who I work better with. I mean, when you guys show up, the 4 of us are here. And they were like, yeah, we know, so just go ahead and go home. And so, but then, like, later on, like, he was failing tests, and we only had, like, 2 tests. No, we had 3. And then we had our final. And then we had group projects at the end. We had, no, not group projects, we had, single projects where they gave us the chapters. And literally, which annoys the crap out of me, because they gave us a half of a class period to work on our projects. One night when we couldn't go to the nursing home because there was only one teacher. So we, got to work on our projects before they were due, and the whole time he was on his laptop playing video games. And I was like, that's fine, we still have like 3 days till it's due. But then the day that it came to be due, his computer crashed, the file didn't save, and all the other explanations to the teacher. And the teacher was like, okay, I'll give you till tomorrow to do it. She was being super nice. So we all went, and we still had to go the next day, because we only have 4 hours and there's 15 of us, so we had to, space it out. So the next day happened, and same thing happened. But that day I had to sit in the back because I couldn't see for some reason from where I was. So I went and I sat in the back where he sat, and I could see his laptop from where I was sitting, and the teacher was sitting right beside me, closest to him. And he was on his computer playing games while people were presenting. And I find that so rude. And I apologize. If you're not there for class, like, we had to pay $700 for this class. And if you're just going to sit there and do nothing, just leave. Leave. If you're not going to, like, join the group, then leave. And I will pick you out in a class, because I hate it. Because just like they say, like, anytime somebody, like, the teacher gets interrupted, you lose like 4 minutes of that class time. And that's just ridiculous when you're in college and you're paying for it. I find it so ridiculous. So I was angry about that. And I didn't know if the teacher that was sitting next to me had saw it. So I was in a dilemma at that point. So I kind of waited till after class was over, and everyone was kind of filing out, and my friend was like, hey, do you want to go, do you want to give me a ride home? And I was like, hold on 1 second. I want to, talk to the teacher before we leave. And she was like, oh, okay. And so I went into her office, and I was like, hey, I don't want to be a tattletale, or like a snitch or anything, but I believe Bob wasn't paying attention to class today and was playing on his computer the whole time when he said that he didn't have his presentation. And she was like, well, I thank you for telling me. And yes, I did see him doing lots of things on his computer, but I wasn't, because where she was closer to him, so she couldn't see. And so she couldn't see like the computer screen. And she thanked me for telling her. And then she was like, with, his condition and then him not wanting to do anything, it's like a rock and a hard place, she said, for the nursing, like the board, because they decide, before our final with our grades and, our evaluation, if we are actually allowed to take the final at our school. Which I think is perfectly fine, because, if you're failing and you're not doing it, then why even take the final? Because even if you ace the final, why would you want to be in that field of work when you didn't do crap beforehand? You know what I mean? So, and that's what they do at our school. And, which I don't mind. And she was like, we're having the meeting tomorrow, and she's like, and I believe he's not going to make it. So, come to find out the next day, women's class, he was storming, because he didn't make it. They told him that he couldn't take the final, but for some reason he stayed like the next week and a half, trying to fight them and fight the board, and like we all heard about like every class period, and it was just annoying. So basically what I wanted to tell these stories because there are people in this class that, no matter what classes you take, that are going to be like that, and you basically just gotta drain them out, drown them out, and just focus on what you want to do. And I wanted to finish the class. I wanted to get good grades. I got A's on everything I did. I absolutely loved it. Like, I wish classes were like this, like hands-on. Like, hey, let's talk about this skill. Hey, let's go do it in the lab. Hey, let's go do it in real life. I would love that. Would love it. I don't know how you would do a math class like that, but we need to figure it out. Because then I'd like math, right? But basically, that is part 2 to the CNA thing. There's not there's not anything else that I could say, unless you really want me to get into exactly how to do the skills. If you want me to do that, go ahead and like this video, because I wouldn't mind doing that. I'm pretty sure Patrick would love to be a guinea pig.
Yay.
But yeah, I sent in my application today, which is Wednesday. I don't know when I'm going to post this.
Tomorrow.
I'm not going to post it tomorrow. I don't know.
Why not?
Because I'll be at work.
Not all day.
No, but I may be tired when I get home.
No. Well, then better.
So, no, that's what I'm going to say. But one big thing, I don't know if I said it in my CNA Part 1 video, I was taking other classes on top of this class, and I do not advise that. I don't advise taking as many classes as I took. I took a full load of, like, I was a full-time student plus this class, so that ended up being like 36 hours. But if you plan out your days and just really, really want it, it could happen. But just for me, I'm really bad at planning. Really bad. Kind of more go with the flow kind of person. So.
You're not even good at that sometimes.
Nope. So.
You ask too many questions.
Yep. Thank you, Patrick.
Love it.
Thank you. But go ahead and subscribe.
Do it! Just do it!
So you can be notified every time I make a new video. I don't know if this is going to be part of a series sort of thing. I've thought about it, but I'm not sure yet because I need willing participants. That one may be Patrick.
I decline.
He accepts.
Yeah. Why do I always get volunteered for everything? I'm told I'm volunteering for stuff. That's not right.
Because you just do it. You're a people pleaser.
Just
please the people.
Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it.